Hello, I'm Caroline Dufresne Shrubsole, a long-standing member of Area 5, and today I'm going to do a little tutorial about how I get ready for a show, doing my hair and my makeup, ready for a competition, wearing a bowler hat. It's a bit different from Emma and Tanya's tutorials because my hair's a bit different to theirs. So whereas Emma's got lovely short thick hair and Tanya's got these lovely long locks that go for miles and are really thick and luscious, I've got relatively long hair but it's all fluff. So as soon as I try and do my hair, you'll see that it just turns to nothingness. So this is more of a tutorial for people with thinner hair or longer hair that's not quite as thick as Tanya's and doesn't give a nice bun when you use a twisting technique to form your bun. So let's get started. So I'm starting with not freshly washed hair. So I washed this yesterday morning, which you don't really want to go to a show with very clean hair because it then makes it very difficult to control it. Also try not to use too much conditioner, it makes it very slippy, very difficult to handle. And so I'm going to start off with having chosen really good strong elastic. Tried out a few of these, find the one that's got the most spring left in it. And then if you notice, I've got a few little straggly bits at the front. I'll often just tidy those out of the way to start with, just with a bobby pin. So I'll find the shortest bits that probably won't firmly go back in my ponytail. This side's generally a bit longer, so that'll fit in. And I will just secure that at the top of my head, above the height of where my hat band goes, so it's unlikely that this pin will get shoved out the way when I put my hat on. So that's those bits secured. And then make sure I smooth all these bits as tight as I can. Both sides. And I'm looking to get a ponytail that's the nape of my neck. Now I don't tend to do mine too low down because I end up with a relatively small bun. So if it's too low down, then you get a gap, and I like my bun to sit and touch the brim of my hat when I'm done. So sort of trial and error worked out that if I put my hair about here, it gives me room for my bun to sit there without sort of coming down to my collar. And again here, getting it as tight as you possibly can, because this will be the base for your bun. And if you haven't got really good foundations for your bun, then it's not going to sit firmly and you're going to have issues with it wobbling all over the place. So now where my hair differs from the previous two videos, so Tanya's got amazing, really long, thick hair, and so she doesn't really need a bun ring to provide the support for it. And where Emma's got her hair, it's quite short and thick, and it fits really nicely over a bun ring, and then you can tuck the ends really neatly behind it. What I find is that although I've got long hair that looks like it's going to make a really nice bun, if I just twist it, I'll turn around and show you. So if I twist my hair to put it into a bun, like Tanya showed in her video, I actually end up with what is really a bit too small a bun. I haven't got the volume of hair needed to do that sort of technique, because although I look like I've got quite a lot of hair, it sort of turns to nothingness very quickly. So I do tend to use a bun ring for support to provide the shape and a bit more fullness. And if I go to use the technique that Emma showed in her video, so that's putting the bun ring over the ponytail, right by the elastic, and then we spread our hair out over the top of the bun ring, select ourselves an elastic. I tend to use the thinner ones for going over the bun ring. And we secure that. Then I've got all these long bits of hair that I'm then going to try and sort of tuck around the base of the bun. And the issue with this is it can become quite bulky. It can be quite difficult to get these bits attached and secured without them springing out. And it also means that your bun tends to protrude quite far back from your head. So rather than sitting sort of nice and neatly flush to your head, it tends to sit quite far back. So the technique I'm going to show you today is still with a bun ring, but it's using a bun ring in a slightly different way. So here I take my bun ring, make sure that it's nicely tightly wrapped up. And for this technique, it does make it easier either if you've put a few stitches in this to hold it so that it doesn't unravel again, because it's very easy to do that. Instead, you need to make sure that when you use this technique, what you're going to do is you're going to roll your hair up in the bun ring, but that you're rolling this tighter rather than loosening it. So putting a few stitches in this to secure it can be really useful. So what I'm going to do here, and this looks like it's going to be difficult to do by yourself, but a lot of it's done by touch and you can feel when it feels right, is that I'm going to start how Emma started by putting the bun ring over the ponytail. But then with one hand, I'm going to run to the end of my hair. So I've got just an inch or two left of my hair. I'm then going to run the bun ring down to meet that, hold it with my thumb, secure that bit, and then with my other hand, I'm going to wrap it round the bun ring. So tucking it through the centre, can be quite tricky to sort of get to the start of it. There we go. And then I've got those ends. Now what I'm going to do is, by holding on to those bits that I already wrapped around, I'm now going to roll my hair around the bun ring. So once you've got started and done a couple of turns, this is much easier to do. And you might find it easier to sort of rotate the ring as you go, just so you get a more even distribution of the hair around the bun ring. Now often this will look horrendous to start with, and it can need a little bit of manipulation to make it look neat and tidy. But once you've made a few revolutions and you've got it to the base of your head, then you can just use your fingers to feel where you've got any gaps, and you can feel the bun ring. This has worked out quite well because I sort of rotated it as I went. But sometimes you need just to sort of manipulate the hair around a bit. So then I'm going to take my elastic, like I did before, just a thin elastic, and what I'm going to do is just, if I've got any sort of stray bits, tuck those in. Again, keeping my hand really tight over the top of that bun ring. And then pushing it firmly against my head, and then going to wrap the elastic around it twice. And the elastic should then tuck around the other side of the ring. So you should see it's quite well secured. It's neatened it up a lot. And in comparison to the other technique, it doesn't tend to protrude from your head and stick out quite as much. The sort of wrapping motion sort of tightens it towards your head. So actually this is really quite secure already. But you might choose to put a pin or two in it, just if it's protruding a bit from your head, you might want to secure it. So the spin pins are really, really good for securing the bun. All I'd need is one for doing this bun. And what I'd simply do is I'd start on this side, again squishing the bun tight to the head. I'd then put the spin pin in, spinning it clockwise. You can feel it going through the hair bubble there. And there, it's nice and tight and secure, and that bun is going absolutely nowhere. So now that that's all secure, I move on to hair nets. So I usually do a really vigorous spray of hairspray all over to secure everything prior to putting my hair nets on. So I'd start at the front and smoothing that out, bits around my ears. Bits around my neck. Sweeping those up. And when you put your hair nets on, the part of your hairline that's going to show most is this little bit at the base of your neck. So it's really important to make sure that those wispy bits are really, really nicely secured. So lots and lots of hairspray on those bits. And back to the front. Tucking those bits in round behind your ears. Okay. Then I put a bit of extra hairspray across the bun. I've already got a few little bits escaping there, but we will soon sort those out. So as I showed you before, I've got a different selection of hair nets that I use. So these smaller ones, these are the bun nets, and obviously you're never going to get that over your head, but what I like to do is put it round twice over my bun. So I like to put the knot north and south, and then scoop the hair up underneath, pull it tight over the bun, and then I usually cross over at the top, bring it tight, and then bring it back over and under. And you can usually tuck that knot away underneath your bun. And there it's just given a much nicer shape to the bun. It's tied in all those loose ends and sort of tightened it up. Sometimes you need an extra bun net. If it's not quite worked out the shape you want, they can be really good just securing those little extra hairs and sort of neatening it up. Then I'd go in with a large hair net over the top of my head. I like these really, really fine nets. I find those give a much nicer finish. And again here, I usually go knots front and centre. So I start at the front, make sure it's over the bun, and usually cuff my ears to start with. I then take that up to my hairline, put my fingers in the elastic and run it over my ears. Then I like to pull it nice and far down, and I always cross my nets over underneath my bun and taking it up. Again, so this time the knot sits on top of my hair, and then sort of run round the edges again, just sort of evening out the tension of the elastic and making sure that that's nice and secure. That feels really good. So you can see there that all of these little wispy bits of hair are all tucked away, and at the nape of my neck as well. You might want to put an extra hairnet over if you've got particularly wispy bits of hair or some short bits of hair. You might put another net over just to doubly secure it. Same technique again, this one's slightly larger, sort of crossing over underneath. And there we go. Running that round, making sure all those little edges are secured. I can see a few little wispy bits just there. So one extra little spritz of hairspray. Secure those bits there. Lovely. So that is your hair all ready to go. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate in a bit closer detail the technique that I've used on my Glamorous Assistant, a bit of hair extensions. So this is braiding hair that I've been using for another project. And so I'm just going to run my bun ring up my ponytail. As you can see here, I've sort of unravelled my bun ring as I went, but that's easily remedied. So I'm just having that right at the top of my ponytail. This will be solved when I then draw it down. I'm then going to tighten it. So I'm going to draw down to the end of my ponytail, keeping hold of the last few inches. So then I'm going to wrap this around my bun ring. Just to secure the ends. I'm then going to roll it, holding on to these bits, up. And then, like I said, twisting, rotating it around as you go. It means you get an even coverage of hair. Doesn't matter if it ends up a little bit gappy, because a lot of that you can manipulate when you get to the end. And like I said, it'll often get quite scruffy looking, but we sort of smush that all at the end and it looks much neater. So that although it looked a bit horrendous for a minute, it doesn't actually look that bad when we get to the end. And we see that just with a little bit of simple manipulation, sort of tucking it round with your pair of hands, quickly looks much better. We've got quite a bit of thickness of hair here, so we might just run that round with our fingers. We can then secure with a bobble. And then using our bun nets, we can run it over the hair. Not the easiest when it's not fixed to the back of your head. And then you can cross it over and hopefully, this one's a little bit small. And you see I'll just put my finger through it, so we'll get another one. Just run that over, cross it around, bring it back over again. Tuck that elastic behind our bun ring. And we've got a much nicer shape. And I will grab my bowler hat to demonstrate. So when I put my bowler on, it should be just above the eyebrows. So we want to be able to see our eyebrows when competing. And what we want is the brim to be level. As you can see, my bun is just touching the brim. So it gives that nice clearance around your neck for where your collar goes. And then you can bring your veil down. So some people like to have their veil sort of just underneath their jaw. So following their jawline, like so. And then they would cross, secure with a pin, cross the other way and secure with a pin. Personally, I prefer to pull my veil down further and tuck it inside my collar. Just personal preference. I find I look a little bit like I've been garroted or something if I have it higher. So do that. And like I said, we secure it with a pin. So I quite often have two little bobby pins that sit attached to my waistcoat of my jacket, with my jacket, and this is the last thing I put on. So just before I'm going into the competition, I have these on my waistcoat ready to secure my veil. So, like I said, pin in one hand, opened up, veil over the cross. You can then feel when you've managed to catch your veil, and then just slide that pin in there. Again, on the other side, open up your pin, take your veil across, make sure you caught your veil, and then just slide that pin in from the other side. And there you have it. And again, I just sort of tuck that down under my collar, and there we go. Now, the final thing I was going to cover was a little bit of show makeup. So as you can see, now that I've put my veil on, it actually washes out a lot of your features. I also find that when I put my top bowler or my top hat on, it tends to sort of lift my eyebrows a bit, and I end up looking a little bit surprised. So personally, if I'm doing my show makeup, what I tend to do is I draw my eyebrows on a bit flatter, just so that I don't look so startled and surprised all the time. It just sort of softens the look, and we're going for sort of as elegant and refined a look as we can do. So what I usually do is I usually keep my makeup quite simple. I tend not to wear foundation if I'm putting the veil on, because no doubt it all gets on your veil and makes a mess, and you can't really tell generally. Once you've got your veil on, you can't tell the difference. I'll just take that off for a minute. So like I said, I usually sort of have my own makeup kit specifically for showing in my bag at a show. So for my eyebrows, I tend to just sort of draw them on a little bit lower, a little bit flatter, so that I don't look quite so surprised and shocked all the time. And this is sort of taking everything to the next level. It's not necessary to have a full face of makeup for your show, but these little things can make a difference. If you're looking surprised and a little bit worried the whole time just because your eyebrows are very arched, then that can have a negative effect and sort of make you look like you're not enjoying yourself and like you're a bit stressed, which I've often been accused of looking a little tense. So I sort of soften my eyebrow look so it's a little bit flatter, which helps to sort of make me look less startled all the time. And then I would usually wear a lipstick of some description, just because the veil sort of washes you all out. So I wouldn't go for bright red. I've got a variety of colours, so I sometimes go for sort of darker reddy colour. I've got a sort of more natural pink shade that I quite like that one. I quite often wear that on an everyday basis. And then this one that's a slightly more orangey shade. So it depends really on your complexion and what suits you. This one I often use quite sparingly, sometimes just a little bit on my finger, just to add that little bit of colour. So I try not to, this one, use too much, just because it's quite a bold colour. But it just adds that little bit of definition. So you can see already, you can see my features a little bit better. And if I put my bowler back on, you can see my eyebrows look a lot softer. I don't look quite so startled. And again, whereas before, when I had my veil on, you sort of lost the appearance of my lips. Now you can see much better my features. You might want a little bit of blush or something. Usually put a small little mascara on, but not anything too dramatic. And it just sort of gives you that sort of lift of colour, and the judge can now see you smiling as you go around, rather than looking a little bit paler and a little bit terrified. So that's how I get ready for a show. There's loads of different variations in the way people get ready, and we're always learning from each other, so I hope that's helped.